నమస్కారం. డాక్టర్ బిఆర్ అంబేద్కర్ సార్వత్రిక విశ్వవిద్యాలయం విద్యార్థులకు స్వాగతం. ఈ ప్రసారంలో
Welcome dear students. In this lesson we will learn about the essential elements of a valid contract. All contracts are agreements, but all agreements are not contracts. So what is it that differentiates between an agreement and a contract? It is the essential elements which have to be present in an agreement to be called as a contract. We will know about these essential elements with our expert Mr. Srinivas Rao.
Good morning students. According to the section 10 of Indian Contract Act, what are the essential elements of valid contract? Before we proceed with essential elements, we try to understand what is contract. What is contract? According to subsection H, section 2 of the Contract Act, an agreement enforceable by law. If you look at the definition carefully, agreement and enforceability before the law. What is agreement? What is enforceability? What is law? If you know these three words meaning, you know the meaning of the contract. What is law? Law is nothing but set of the rules and regulations to be followed, which is mandatory. On the other hand, what is enforceability? Enforceability means validity in the court of law. Then what is agreement? Agreement, according to section 2, subsection E of the Contract Act, agreement is defined as every promise or set of the promises forming consideration for each other. Every promise or set of the promises forming consideration for each other. From the definition, what is a promise? What is consideration? Each other means there are two persons. Who are the two persons? Namely, offerer, offeree, promiser, promisee. Who is the offerer? The person who is making an offer to another. Offeree, the person who is accepting the same. What is consideration? Something in return, some benefit, some advantage moving from one person to another person. Then what is promise? Promise, according to section 2, subsection B of the Contract Act, defines as when a person made a proposal to another, to whom the proposal is given, if the person assented thereto, it is said to be promise. In simple, agreement is nothing but offer plus acceptance. Contract is nothing but agreement plus enforceability before the law. Agreement and enforceability is a contract according to section 2, subsection H. Now we try to understand what are the essential elements of a valid contract. In that, first one is offer and acceptance. What is offer? When a person made a proposal to another, to whom the proposal is given, if the person assented, it is nothing but a to do or abstain from doing something to another according to section 2, subsection A of the Contract Act. To do is a positive offer, abstain from doing is a negative offer. Both are offers only. Offer is something, a proposal given to another person. In Indian context, we are calling it as offers. As per English law, it is called as proposal. In any valid contract, offer must be definite, acceptance should be unconditional. A definite offer and unconditional acceptance will create a binded relationship between the party. As I told you, offer means according to section 2A, when a person made a proposal to another to do or abstain from doing, to do, positive consideration. Will you buy my car? Positive. Will you sell your business? Positive consideration. Negative consideration. A minor kind of the suit can be a compromise. Cognizable, non-cognizable offences are there, which can be compromised outside the court is the negative consideration, which is enforceable outside the court. On the other hand, there are 4 types of offers are there. We try to understand later part. Now, what is acceptance? Acceptance according to section 2, subsection B. Promise definition only, acceptance definition here. So, a definite offer, unconditional acceptance will create a binded relationship between both the parties. What is the definite offer? For instance, X says to Y, will you buy my Maruti 1000 for rupees 1 lakh? Definite offer. Then what is not a definite offer? X says to Y, will you buy my car? X owns 2 cars. Which car you would like to sell? Offer is not definite. Then acceptance should be unconditional. What is unconditional acceptance? Offeree should give his acceptance according to offerer's offer without making any conditions. Then we can call it as unconditional acceptance. Do remember, a definite offer, unconditional acceptance will create a binded relationship between offerer and offeree. This is the first essential elements of a valid contract. And the second one is consensus ad idem. It is the Latin maxim which means meeting of minds or identity of minds or receiving the same thing in the same sense is called as a consensus. Before they enter into an agreement, both the parties need to read the terms and conditions, understand the same thing in the same sense. When there is a consensus, there can be consent, there can be contract. Otherwise, no contract between both the parties. X says to Y, will you buy my car for 1 lakh? He said yes, there is a consensus. If X says to Y, will you buy my car for 70,000? And other party said, I will buy it for 17,000, 17. Means between both the party, there is no consensus. So, it is one of the essential elements of a valid contract. And the third point is consideration. What is consideration? Something in return, some benefit, some advantage, moving from one person to another person. Consideration also called as quid pro quo. According to Justice Patterson, consideration means something which has some value in the eyes of the law. Something which has some value in the eyes of the law. To understand this one simple example, right now all of us taking oxygen. We are not paying for it. Oxygen in the air has no value. But the same one patient admitted into hospital authority provided the oxygen, they charge for it. So something which has some value. Oxygen in the air has no value, but the same oxygen got some value at the hospital. Something which has some value according to Justice Patterson. Then according to section 2D of the Indian Contract Act, what is consideration? When at the desire of the promiser, promisee or any other person has done or abstained from doing or does or abstains from doing or promises to do or abstain from doing such an act or abstinence is called as a consideration to promise. From the definition you can draw, consideration may be past, present, future. Law specifically mentions that in any valid contract, consideration need not be adequate. but it must be real consideration. When there is no consideration, no contract. What is the adequacy of a consideration? Consideration need not be adequate. Adequate means sufficiency. Inadequacy is material here or material. Let us understand. You own a car, cost rupees 10 lakhs. You would like to sell for rupees 10. You can sell. Consideration need not be adequate. But without rupee 10, if you sell, it is a gift. Gift is not a contract under the Indian Contract Act. So there should be consideration. Your consideration need not be adequate, but it must be real consideration. No consideration, no contract, according to Abdul Aziz versus Mozam Ali. In this case, one person promised to secretary of the masjid, I will pay certain amount for the rebuilding or the renovation of the masjid. Later, failed to pay. Secretary filed a case. Court given the ruling, X need not pay. By paying something to the temple, church or a masjid for the repair or the renewal, what benefit Mr. X is going to get? So, sincerely, law admitted in this case that there is no consideration, no contract. However, under section 25 of the Indian Contract Act, there are certain exceptions. Even without consideration, agreements are enforceable. Like when agreements are made out of natural love and affection, for creation of agency, for completed gift, voluntary services, promise to pay time-barred debt, contract of bailment, the rule of no consideration, no contract is not applicable. So, in this context, we can remember only one point. Consideration is one of the essential elements of a valid contract. Consideration need not be adequate, but it must be real. No consideration, no contract, according to section 25. However, there are certain exceptions under the section 25 also. Now, let us proceed with the next point. Intention to create a legal relationship. Before I make a proposal to another, I must ensure that with my proposal, I am intended to create only legal relationship. Then agreement is enforceable. X made a proposal to Y. Both of us will do construction business. Legal. Both of us will do real estate business. Legal. X made a proposal to Y. We do smuggling. There is no intention to create a legal relationship. X made a proposal to Y. Both of us go for picnic. Picnic is a social obligation. Hence, it is not a contract. So, before you make a proposal to another, see to that you are making a proposal with an intention to create a legal relationship. There is no social, domestic, unlawful, illegal, immoral or agreement opposed to public policy. What is social? Already we have debated. Father promised to his son, my dear son or daughter, every month I will pay you rupees 500 rupees as a pocket allowance. Later, if the father failed to pay, can son file a case? No, because payment of the pocket allowance is a not legal obligation. This is the domestic relationship between the parent and child. Agreement is not enforceable. And social, domestic, other one is unlawful. What is unlawful? A says to B, Mr. B, give me 10 lakhs, I see to that you will become public servant. There is no intention to create a legal relationship. So, before I make a proposal to another, see to that the intention of both the parties should be to have legal relationship. There is no intention to create any immoral, illegal, unlawful relationship. And another important point, capacity to contract. Who is competent to contract? He must be major, he must be sound mind, and he must not be disqualified by any other law. He must be major. Who is a major? Any person has completed the age of 18 years is called major. He must be sound mind. who is a sound mind? Any person who is not unsound is called as sound. According to section 12 of the Contract Act, they gave the definition for unsound person. They said here, any person who is not unsound as a sound. So he must be major, he must be sound mind, and he must not be disqualified by any other law. Who is the disqualified? According to section 11 of the Indian Contract Act, the following persons are disqualified. Like a minor. Who is a minor? According to section 3 of the Indian Majorities Act 1872, any person who does not complete the age of 18 years is called minor. A minor cannot enter into contract. Unsound person cannot enter into contract. Alien enemy cannot enter into contract. Insolvent cannot enter into contract. Convicted. Who is a convicted? Undergoing imprisoned person cannot enter into contract. And at the same time, any act of the Board of Directors against MOA, AOA, Memorandum of Association, Articles of Association, also called as invalid. So see to that you people are competent to enter into contract before you sign the agreement, which means he must be major, he must be sound mind, he must not be disqualified by any other law. And who are disqualified means, remember, minor, unsound person, and others are disqualified. In the others only you can see alien enemy, insolvent, convicted, etc. Now next concept as a free consent. What is the free consent? Consent means acceptance. Free consent means give your acceptance voluntarily, willfully, deliberately, intentionally. You must not be forced, you must not be pressurized to enter into contract. That consent is called as free consent. To understand, consent must not be obtained by using coercion, undue influence, fraud, misrepresentation, mistake. Then it is called as free consent. In case the consent is not influenced by coercion, undue influence, fraud, misrepresentation, mistake, etc. To understand one simple example we will take where there is no free consent. Coercion. What is coercion? Threatening. A person was forced to enter into contract. According to Article 21 of the Constitution of India, you have a fundamental right to live. You have no right to die. If any person say, I will die, this is called as coercion. To understand one case law here, Chikkim Amiraju versus Seshamma. Husband made a proposal to his wife, transfer your property on my name, otherwise I will commit a suicide. Now she had to take a decision whether to transfer the property or to become the widow. Then she said, yes, I will transfer the property. Her consent was not free. She was forced. She was compelled to enter into contract. There is no free consent. One should give consent voluntarily. You are not forced or compelled or influenced by somebody to enter into contract. And another important rule was lawful objective. Objective means purpose. For what purpose a parties are entering into agreement, that object should be legally, lawfully enforceable. That objective must not be unlawful, illegal, immoral, and impossible. What is immoral? If a wife and husband come to an agreement to separate at future, it is called immoral, against moral values of the society. And other one is impossible. If you bring the moon onto the earth, impossible. On the other hand, it should be a lawful. It must not be unlawful activity. Objective should be lawful. And another one is the certainty and possibility of the performance. My offer must be certain, then it is possible to perform. What is the certainty in the purpose here? Let us understand. A is the oil dealer. He is selling the diesel, kerosene, petrol. X given telegram to A. Mr. A, will you sell me 100 liters of oil? Which type of oil? Offer is not certain. Hence, it is not possible to perform. So, offer must be certain. Then it is possible to perform. Then what is the possibility of the performance? If you bring the moon onto the earth, which is impossible. If you walk 400 kilometers per hour, just impossible. So, certainty and possibility of the performance. Another one is a writing and registration. Contract need not be in writing. It may be oral. But whenever the law requires, your agreement must be in writing. When the law requires, so as per the Transfer of the Property Act, when you purchase the immobile property, that agreement must be in writing. As per the Negotiable Instruments Act 1881, all the negotiable instruments like a promissory note, bills of exchange or a check should be in writing, law says. Otherwise, contract need not be in writing. Indian Contract Act makes no discrimination between written agreements and oral agreements. Both are treated as one and the same. But better, all the commercial transactions should be in writing with a view to avoid the further disputes between the parties. And lastly, you can say agreements not declared as void. According to Section 11, Section 20, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 36, 56. These are all called void agreements. Indian Contract Act deliberately declared that these agreements are not enforceable. Before I enter into contract, I must see to that these agreements will not fall under this category. Whatever agreements we are making, that agreement is deliberately not declared as void ab initio. That agreement is legally, lawfully enforceable. So, agreement must not be declared as void ab initio. These are the essential elements of the valid contract.
So, dear students, you have heard the essential elements of a valid contract. I will sum up the essential elements for you. For a contract to be enforceable in a court of law, it should be having these essential elements. There should be an offer and there should be an acceptance. The first element. Second, the offer must be accepted by the person to whom it is made, and the offer should be for a lawful consideration, and there should be a free consent, and it should be for a lawful objective. It should be for a lawful object, and it should be by free consent. Free consent is a consent which is not obtained by coercion, undue influence, fraud, misrepresentation or mistake. The offer should be for a lawful purpose. The purpose should not be immoral. The parties who are entering into the contract should have the capacity to enter into a contract. The party should not be a minor. The party should not be a minor. The party should be of a sound mind, and the party should not be prohibited by any court of law into entering into a contract. And finally, the consideration should be lawful. These are the essential elements of a valid contract.
పాఠ్యాంశాలపై మీ సూచనలు, సలహాలు, సందేహాలు మాకు తెలియచేయండి. మీ సూచనలు, సలహాలు, సందేహాలు మాకు తెలియజేయవలసిన చిరునామా: డైరెక్టర్, ఆడియో విజువల్ ప్రొడక్షన్ అండ్ రీసెర్చ్ సెంటర్, డాక్టర్ బిఆర్ అంబేద్కర్ ఓపెన్ యూనివర్సిటీ, ప్రొఫెసర్ జి రామరెడ్డి మార్గ్, రోడ్ నంబర్ 46, జూబ్లీ హిల్స్, హైదరాబాద్ 500033.